I'm Gregg Skall, a member of the law firm Womble Carlyle Sandridge and Rice. Today we're going to talk about the FCC's broadband plan and how broadcasters can become a participant in the broadband plan and utilize the broadcast spectrum in a more innovative way to bring multiple services to users more quickly. Broadcasters today, I think, need to develop additional streams of revenue and look for ways to become more interactive. In essence, they have become interactive by integrating their web pages and other kinds of social media into the service offerings. But to be responsive to the needs today, they need to become even more interactive, and they need to develop these additional sources of revenue. People have asked how broadcasters could participate in the kinds of triple play, quad play types of service offerings that the personal communications providers are providing. The way to do that, I think, is to look at their spectrum as a resource where they could offer it as a one-to-many, one-to-all kind of broadcast service for the entertainment and informational and emergency type services, but then utilize the additional spectrum to actually enter the triple play service business themselves. They could do that. People have asked, how could they do that? That's not their business. They don't really know that business. There are a couple of ways that they can do it. Either they learn the new business and become a part of it, as most people do when they evolve, when their business evolves into something new, or they could partner with existing providers. While cable and broadcasters have had their differences, certainly, and that's perhaps putting it mildly, here's an opportunity for them to work together, because cable has evolved into becoming the premier provider of in-home internet service, for example. And they're also providing telephone, utilizing the broadcast spectrum in a way to deliver services, because cable, in essence, also needs to look at ways to go wireless. There's a potential marriage or opportunity for them to work together. They could work together with traditional broadband providers of wireless broadband providers like AT&T or Verizon or some of the existing service providers for mobile services. And rather than have to go through the auction process, they could look at ways to combine and get that spectrum into use right away. So basically what we're saying is that broadcasters could transition into a bidirectional cellularized type of service while continuing to provide the kinds of services that audiences look to them for. Basic information, local news, information, and emergency services, as well as good, strong, compelling local programming, while also utilizing their bandwidth for a more cellularized type of service. One question that people have asked is whether this would have to be done mandatorily by all broadcasters simultaneously, or could it be done on a market-by-market basis or on an individual broadcaster station basis. I was concerned about that also, and I talked to some engineers about it. From what I understand, it could be done on an individual station basis, it could be done on a market-by-market basis, or it could be done even on a transition plan basis for the entire industry, depending on whether an industry organization would get behind it and try to develop that kind of a plan. Certainly it would take planning. Certainly it would take a method for making sure that viewers had the receiving equipment necessary to be able to view the programs and to utilize the additional services that broadcasters could provide. But I think it could be done on a station-by-station basis. Well, the broadband plan relies essentially on a take-back of a significant amount of spectrum, 120 megahertz of spectrum from broadcasters. So it notes in almost a footnote fashion this kind of an idea, but doesn't really give it much credence. It does fit in with the broadband plan in this respect. If the FCC were to give broadcasters sufficient flexibility to modify their modulation capabilities and modify the technical rules to allow it, it could fit in very nicely. And actually, it would probably take less time to transition to a plan like this than going through the auction authorization process, with all the time that would take, going through the auction, and then actually getting the spectrum out in the hands of those who would implement it. So that process has been estimated to take about 10 years. This could happen much faster if broadcasters were given the flexibility to make these changes themselves. I think the best way to make something like this happen is to go to the industry itself. The industry engineers in broadcasting and together with their colleagues that have been providing broadband services can figure out a system that will make this work. It will take a lot of skill. It'll take a lot of skill in local programming services. It'll take broadcasters looking to new revenue models that include perhaps ways of getting subscriber pay models into the mix. But overall, I think broadcasting has a bright future so long as it continues to innovate. It's been innovating ever since the first radio station came on in the 1920s, KDKA, and I think it will continue to do that for at least the foreseeable future and for a lot longer than that.